Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Starting Small Music Podcast. I'm your host, Justin McCormick, and today we have a very special guest. We have artist and songwriter Wyatt McCubbin. When first trying to pursue music, Wyatt made the trip from Ohio every other week for 6 years to write songs in Nashville. Now signed to 50 Egg Music and Taper Music, Wyatt has released some awesome music for himself, including his single, Honky Tonk, and also having major label cuts on artists such as Riley Green, Easton Corbin, and Dustin Lynch. I had a really awesome time talking to Wyatt. He's a great guy, and I know you guys are going to enjoy this episode. I hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you at the end. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Starting Small Music Podcast. Today we have hit songwriter Wyatt McCubbin. Wyatt, how you doing today?
I don't know about that hit songwriter stuff. I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing real good. So getting at the start of your life, where did you grow up, and how did you first get into music?
Man, I grew up in a small town in southwestern Ohio called Selma, Ohio. If anybody knows where like the Springfield, Dayton area is, kind of southwestern Ohio. But I grew up there, born and raised in the same house that my parents still live in to this day. So that's where my roots are. Just nothing but flat corn and bean fields up where I'm from.
Great things for a country song right there. Nothing but
lots of inspiration, lots of it.
Now, did you grow up in a musical family, or are you off on your own in that?
A very small musical family. My grandpa played a couple chords on the guitar, nothing serious, just kind of a hobby thing. And then I had some cousins that played, at family reunions and stuff like that. They never went out and played shows or nothing, but there was always picking parties around the house, or around their parts down in more southern Ohio when we'd go down there for reunions a couple times a year. And I always remember being really intrigued by them being able to play a whole song through and sing it too. And it never really dawned on me that it was even a possibility in my life.
Yeah. So who were some of the first bands you started listening to as a kid that kind of got you into music?
I would say, the first record I ever bought with my own money was Back in Black. So, so I was a huge AC/DC fan. But then my parents had music around the house. So I remember being exposed to tons of Alabama records. And, of course, Merle Haggard and George Jones and things like that. Keith Whitley, Sammy Kershaw. Obviously like country music, but there were elements of rock and roll and soul. Lots of Bob Seger, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah. Just
a very wide range of music that I remember growing up. And I remember hearing just the very distorted cassette tape signature sound on some of those albums. Like even things like that Live Kiss record. I don't know, it's just very nostalgic to me to hear those records now. And I think it's any record that you grew up with or you spent time with as a kid. It doesn't matter if, I'm not saying these aren't good records, but later on you might listen to them and be like, wow, that's not that really special, or that's like whatever that is to you. But they will always be special because you would shed it on them.
Right. And I mean, it's funny that you said that the distortion kind of adds to it, because I know that same feeling. Like when you listen to a vinyl record player, just that little crackle and pop in between the songs really adds personality to the record.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no doubt.
So it was in high school that you started kind of playing your own guitar and playing out in your town, or did you start playing gigs with a band or anything like that when you're still at home?
So I broke my arm playing football in 7th grade, and I had to take some kind of therapy for my wrist and arm. I had a couple surgeries, and they said, man, you should look into maybe playing guitar. That'd be good therapy. Yeah. And I thought, wow, sure, why not? That sounds like fun. And that's why I started playing music. Literally a lucky break. And I soon after started writing songs, all by myself, just trying to rhyme stuff that made sense to me, maybe not to anybody else, but yes, I did start playing in honky tonks and bars. When I was like 14 or 15 years old, I started really hitting some of those bars in my hometown, like places that my mom and dad had to drive me to and take me into because I couldn't technically get in there.
Yeah.
And man, I built a really cool fan base that I'm still feeding today with music and songs, and they've supported me, and I want to keep, giving them what they deserve too.
Totally. So
So
coming out of high school, did you move to Nashville right out of graduation? What did you do coming out of high school?
I'd been to Nashville a couple times, probably very prematurely. Um, I was not ready to come to Nashville, but I had made some connections by coming down here. And just out of high school, I had had a guy named Billy Yates, who was a great songwriter, country singer and songwriter. He had got a hold of me over social media and pretty much offered me a publishing deal, long story short. And I had that kind of waiting for me when I got out of high school. So I, being the rebellious one that I was, I said, well, I don't want to wait the whole year. I want to get out a half year early and get down there. So technically that's when I started making that trip, the real trips down here and writing songs with guys. And Billy would set me up with co-writes. And a lot of times he'd call me on my way down and say, hey man, don't bother swinging by here. Because I was he was letting me stay at his house. Don't bother swinging by here, man. You go on into town, I got you a write set up.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of things like that. And I've met some of my best friends and that way, and built a lot of the camp that I'm still writing with today.
Now, how important do you think that is, moving to Nashville? It seems like everyone has like a little camp, like when you first come to town. What did those first years look like for you, kind of building that camp of yours and networking?
I think it's so important because you can shoot and for the stars and strive to write with guys that have had hits. And I've been very lucky to be able to get to know a lot of writers that have been here for a long time. But I think what I've learned is finding your peers in your so-called class of Nashville can and will pay off in the long run. Because I heard somebody say this the other day. Look at Luke Combs, for example. That there was a group of guys, and obviously writing songs with him. And I think someone said that he was responsible for more first-time number ones than almost any artist ever, because those guys wrote songs at the very start of his journey and are still celebrating hits now. So you never know who you're going to be coming up the ranks with. You could be coming up and you could go to Tin Roof on Demumbrian here in Nashville and meet the next just superstar and start writing songs with him when nothing's going on in his world.
Yeah.
So I have really taken notice of that, and I think a lot of people should. Don't be above writing with your peers, and don't you got to start somewhere, and you can't really skip steps. So I think really building that thing and building relationships and core groups of friends and writers, like a lot of those guys that you will come up with will turn into lifelong friends because they've been through the trenches with you.
Totally. So, and when you guys are on top, I mean, then you guys can all be on the road together. I think that's all an important part of it, because then when you're on the road,
to celebrate that much more.
Right. So who would, I mean, you said that it's kind of like a class, who would you say some other artists and songwriters that are kind of in your class of the year that you moved to town?
Well, I feel like I'm even behind these guys, but I mean, guys like Drew Parker, they were here just a hair before me, technically living here, because I was still making the back and forth track for a long time. I was back and forth every other week for about 5 or 6 years from Ohio to here. It was a lot. But I mean, my group of guys are guys like Eric Dillon, Drew Parker, and then obviously like some hit writers like Jonathan Singleton and Tony Lane, and I feel like I might be contradicting myself because I have a very scattered group of writers, of guys my age and guys and girls my age, and then also more seasoned guys. So I think for me, it was, I will say this to maybe not contradict myself, but to bring up a valid point. Being also in the room with people that have had hits and have had success, obviously they know what a great song is. They know what it takes to write a hit song or a great song, and they'll beat you up like you kind of need to be beat up.
Totally.
Because when you're writing songs with your buddies, you're having fun and you're just trying to make stuff rhyme. But when you get into a high pressured write, there is a sink or swim element to it, to where, okay, I have to learn how to do this, or I'm going to be eaten for lunch here soon, and I will never be in this room again. So I think both things are very important, both elements of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you said that for about 5 years, you came to town every other week or so. And I mean, that's kind of like the path I'm on. I try to come like once a month. And so what do you say the importance is of actually moving to town? I mean, did you see a big transition in your career once you actually relocated?
I did personally. Everybody's story is different. There are guys that, I mean, one of the big arguments is, well, I mean, it worked for George Strait to not live here or move here. But I mean, obviously you never know what he spent a lot of time here. Like a lot of people, everybody's story is different. All I can speak is from my experience. But I will say my career changed when I moved here. There is a part of that must be present to win that is true here. Not all the time, but there are opportunities that you can get a call this morning, say, hey man, this afternoon, what do you have going on? And I realized, like, when I was 6 hours away in Ohio, I couldn't swing that. Those Hail Mary chances are very few and far between, but they can change your life.
Yeah.
It's a lot. This whole thing's like playing the lottery in so many ways. But I noticed that, and it only makes sense that it happened this way for me, but I noticed that the more songs I wrote by being here every day writing, obviously the more activity I got. It's like throwing things up against a wall. Something is bound to stick. And I can say within the last year I've lived here technically 3 years. And within the last year, I've probably been the most busiest, and I've had the most cuts. There's my first major label cuts have been within the last year. And I think we're up to like 5 or 6.
Heck yeah.
And
building.
Yeah, man, it's seriously building blocks. And I don't think I could have truly done that without being here and truly just grinding it out, man. Some days I think, wow, I write too much and I need a break. And then other days when Friday rolls around and you get a cut that was released that you almost forgot about, that you wrote a year ago, it's like, oh, wait, yeah, I should still be doing this. I can't. Like, if I don't get up and go to town and write a song, someone else will.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say, like, when they don't feel like writing, they just remember that Ashley Gorley still writes every day.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's right. He's one of the guys that's still doing sometimes 2 a days.
Wow. So, I mean, I want to get into all your major label cuts here in a minute, but I know that you put out your own music as well. So what was like the importance of still pursuing, like, putting out your own music, stuff that you could call your own, not only giving your stuff away to the major label artists as well?
So my thing is, I've always been an artist, even writing songs for so-called, other artists, or writing songs that turn into other cuts. It's a blessing and a curse to be an artist. You will always have your stamp on something. And I came here to be a singer and a player and a songwriter, and I wanted my name to be on the record too. I'm still in that age bracket to where it makes sense to, put records out. I mean, there is no age bracket that doesn't make sense, but I'm 27 and I've been here long enough to build relationships and get outside cuts, but also I never wanted to lose sight of the big picture, which was to hopefully have hits of my own as an artist and just release stuff I'm proud of, country music. And that's where my heart lives, man. I can go into a room like today. I'll write a song, and we might love it, and it might be a just big old high at the end of the day, but it's still not a high like getting on stage and playing a song that you wrote for yourself, for a group of people, and even sing along. Which I've noticed after releasing some of this stuff, there are some diehard fans out there that I've run across that are, just jamming out to this. And that makes me happier than I've ever been, just because, and that tells me, okay, I'm not crazy. I need to pursue this thing because that's where the real joy is for me.
Totally. And you were out on the road, was it last year with Lane Hardy?
Lane Hardy and Midland.
Wow,
and,
man, Midland would be a crazy band to tour with. I'm sure you heard about a live show from them.
Yeah, man. I think I did 10 or 12 dates with them last year, and then had opportunities to open for Scotty McCreery and even Hank Williams Jr.
Really?
And a lot of really cool shows, man.
Do you have a favorite show that sticks out?
Man, those shows with Hank were really special. But I tell you, one of my favorite sets was, I think we were in Doswell, Virginia. Yeah, Doswell, Virginia, just near Richmond, with Scotty McCreery. Is a huge outdoor stage. This stage had to have been 60 feet high. Wow. It was massive. And we had a great time. It was a great crowd. And me and the guys I took out with me, I had a 3-piece that night, a bass player and a dobro player. And we just had a ball, man. It was hot. We sweat all over everything, but we had the time of our lives, man.
So I want to hear, you had a cut on the latest Dustin Lynch album, Something That Makes You Smile. Yeah. Can you tell me the story behind the writing of that song, and also when you found out it's going to be on the new Dustin album?
Man, this is a wild story. Put your seatbelt on. Yeah, exactly. Man, not to bring the mood down or anything, but my grandfather had passed away last year, and I'd had a lot of that on my mind. Obviously, my grandfather and my grandmother actually passed away about 6 weeks apart from each other. And thank you. But me being down here, compared to being back and forth like I used to be, I started counting trips, and it really started to sink in towards the end where I knew that they, weren't in great health and I might not have that much longer. I started realizing, like, over a year, I might get to see them 10 or 12 times. And it just broke my heart. And with all that on my mind, I had to come up with Eric Dillon and Andy Sheridan. And I kind of had a little guitar part worked out. I did not have that title. Eric Dillon had that title. But as soon as he said it, do something that makes you smile. What's crazy is his wife was about to leave her job to go to another job that might not have been maybe not as big of a job, but she loved it. She wanted to do it. So that's where the title came from for him. But then I got to thinking just about time, the time aspect of it. And that's where a lot of that, technically the third verse, after that first chorus where it talks about, for me, it's going down to that fishing hole where Grandpa taught me how to tie a knot. That's where I was inspired by that song. Man, the story, I live for those kinds of songs, just big life songs. It was a special day that day. It was the first time the three of us had ever written together.
Oh, wow.
And we wrote that song, I think, it was on a Tuesday. And on Friday, I got an email from my publisher saying that Tim McGraw's camp had put it on hold. And they wanted to hold it for Tim. And apparently at the same time, another publisher that was involved with this whole process had pitched it to Dustin Lynch, and he had put it on hold. So it was almost a bidding war. And really? The deciding factor was, I wish they both could have cut it. Maybe that's down the road, but I mean, as a writer, you're just tickled to death to even have a chance to be in that position.
Yeah.
So Dustin said, "Okay, here's the deal. I will cut it Wednesday." Like, this was like a week or two turnaround time. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I think he was going to cut the following Wednesday. So we wrote it, and a week and a half later, it was like cut. And then I'm trying to think when we wrote it. Like, it was another couple months, and it was out. It was
Okay.
it was such a whirlwind of just a happy time. And what a cool album to be a part of too, man. He's out there crushing it.
For
And,
sure.
apparently he had, this is weird too, just being the writer that sang the demo. To think that he heard my vocal on it and said, you know what, I think I want to do that. Of course, Andy Sheridan produced the track, the demo anyway, and just nailed it. And apparently it was just meant to be, man.
Heck yeah. Another song I want to ask you about too is I'm a huge Easton Corbin fan. I think he's one of the most underrated artists in country music for the amount of hits he's provided us, you know. And you have his new single, Let's Do Country Right. What's the story behind that one?
That we wrote that probably 3 or 4 years ago, and Easton, we wrote it with Easton, and his original producer on those first couple records, and then his new producer. Those were the four of us in the room.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we wrote that thing, and kind of we didn't really talk about it afterwards. And I always thought, like, man, that's pretty dang cool. That's fun. Like, I love the wagon wheel chandelier line and things like that. So when I had heard that he cut it, because he had done a show here in Nashville at 3rd and Lindsley, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's a bucket list cut for me, because I'm like you probably those records that he put out, man, with the big hits on it, were a big part of me picking up a guitar.
All right,
or
all
at
over
least,
the road, a little more country than
man.
that. Yeah,
I remember, like, after I started playing guitar, I had learned a little more country than that, and I always loved his voice and his records. So when I got to meet Easton and like work with him, it made me like him even more, because he's just one of the best dudes ever, man. So to have that cut is really, really special. And he nailed it. He sang the absolute crap out of it.
So I like to close all my interviews with what your advice is to aspiring musicians and songwriters out there.
Wow. I would say there's no better time than now. And with that being said, just to chase something, your dream. But one of the quotes that's been sticking out to me, and it's been popping up a lot of different places, and I don't think that's on accident, but I'm paraphrasing here, but nothing gets done in your comfort zone. So, it's the old things, like, you got to be uncomfortable to get things done. You're moving, you're going for something. If you're in your comfort zone, and I've been there, to where, wow, I'm playing this way safe. I'm not getting anything done. I'm not pushing myself. I'm not working with new people. I'm just writing with the same people over and over. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going to work at some point if it's meant to be. But from my experience, I've learned, get out of that dang comfort zone, have some fun, and just go for it, man. It's not going to hurt anything.
Heck yeah. Actually, and one more thing, what's next for your solo career as well?
So next for me is putting out more music, and obviously getting some more shows together. Where are you from, by chance?
South Bend, Indiana. Notre Dame.
Oh my gosh, man, we're pretty much neighbors where I'm from.
Yeah.
Well, a big goal for me is to hit that Midwest circuit, going to places like Indianapolis, and then moving over to my home state in Columbus and Cincinnati, and then Illinois, just really honing in on where a lot of my base is, along with putting new music out. So I think those things will go hand in hand. Get new music out and then go tour on it.
Well, guys, there you have it. My conversation with Wyatt McCubbin. Wyatt, thank you again so much for coming on the show. I had a great time talking with you. Everyone go follow him on Instagram at Wyatt McCubbin and go stream his single right now, Honky Damn Tonk. I want to give a big thank you to TBD Coffee Co. for being the official coffee of Starting Small Music. Check them out at tbdcoffeeco.com. And make sure to come back next week to hear my conversation with artist and songwriter Gabriella Rose. Check out Starting Small Music on YouTube to see all the video content from our interviews. And also, follow Starting Small Music on Instagram at Starting Small Music and let us know who you'd like to hear on the podcast next. And remember, everyone starts small.